Hi everyone, very good evening. Aarti here. Hope everyone is enjoying your Sunday evening. Here is another AMA session from the IRONMAN page. This is an initiative which Yoska has kind of stepped up from 2022, which is Women in Sport initiative, which primarily helps women athletes to take up endurance sport. We have been getting phenomenal responses. While we wait for our speaker to join in, Maitreyi will be joining us very soon. Hi everyone, good evening. Just waiting for our speaker to join in. Just give us a couple of minutes. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Arati. How are
How
you?
are you? I'm doing good. Thanks for joining in, Maitreyi. It means a lot to us. I think the topic today is, focus on the women. As you know, Yoska has come up with a new initiative called Women in Sport. And during 2022, we had a phenomenal response, and we continue to support women endurance athlete, not just triathletes, but also help women kind of pick up the sport, form team relays. Somebody could be a good runner, cyclist, and kind of forming a relay in all women team. On part of that initiative, thank you so much for coming on board and addressing our audience, especially women out there on endurance sport. A small intro about Maitreyi is she comes with a nutrition background as well as exercise and physiology, which is I think talk of the town today. Uh, there's a bit of a glitch, Maitreyi, you're there? Uh, Sorry guys, just give us a minute. Hey everyone, again, very good evening. This is another
Hi, yes.
initiative. Hey, hi, you're back. That's okay. Good to have you back.
Yes.
So I was just introducing you to the audience, and once again, welcome and thanks for taking your time out to kind of address a few questions. We have actually had a good response for this, so we'll straight away start off with our AMA. I mean, first thing first, how does the physiology of women very different from men, and especially in an endurance sport?
Aarti, you said it. The physiology of women is very different from men. And I think what we have to realize is we are not small men. We're very, very different. We are bred for different purposes. Biologically, we are different. So the comparison, if we were to compare against somebody, it should ideally be an age and weight matched female. That would be
Mm-hmm.
the most ideal comparison. But just here, because we're trying to get everybody to understand the differences, see, women um, at the base level, we have smaller lungs, we
Mm-hmm.
have a smaller heart, we have smaller stomachs, and we have smaller muscles. Okay, so what does that mean? The key determinant of aerobic performance or endurance performance, as you know, is VO2 max.
Mm-hmm.
And VO2 max is basically determined by your maximal cardiac output. How much blood can your heart pump with per heartbeat, right? So
Yeah.
it's heart rate into stroke volume. So now, because we have smaller hearts, we're going to be pumping lesser blood as compared to men.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a 10% difference in VO2 max
Mm-hmm.
for a man and a woman with the same amount of training and of the same age. So that is one of the major differences. The second major difference is we have smaller stomachs, so the rates of gastrointestinal distress seen during the race, seen before the race, are slightly higher in women, which just means that you have to figure out as girls what is it that suits your stomach the best. It's not a
Got it.
limitation, it's just about figuring it out. Then I think The other difference, I wouldn't say it's a limitation, the other difference is that our main reproductive hormone, which is estrogen, it does not allow the production of red blood cells beyond a certain point, which means that, you know, when you're looking at your blood test, and when you're looking at your peer's blood test who happens to be a man, you cannot say, oh my god, how is his hemoglobin 16 and why is mine 13? It's going to be like that. And also we have the menstrual cycle. So all of us at, you know, 4 to 5 days in a month, we're bleeding about 80 mils of blood and about 3.2 to 4 milligrams of iron, which is a lot. So that also causes some differences in the physiology. We're
Understood.
about 8 times more likely to be iron deficient than men. So think about it. What are the, you know, what are the outlets for iron in men? The only outlet is in endurance sports, when you do a foot strike and you do repeated foot strikes, like in the run part of an Ironman or a half Ironman or an ultra or a marathon, there are red blood cells, capillaries which burst because of repeated foot strikes, and that is literally the only way men will lose iron. Women will lose iron like that also, and also in their menstrual cycle.
Got it.
So that is, you know, again, a huge difference. And I think we are smaller, so our ability to thermoregulate is a little different than men. So what this means is that for all of the ladies who want to do half Ironman Goa, you just need to get there a couple of days and adapt and acclimatize. Don't land there the previous evening expecting to be all amazing on the race day. You will be, but it will be more trouble for you. So there are greater chances. Women
Mhm.
are 5 times more likely to suffer from what is called as orthostatic intolerance. So, you know, lightheadedness,
Mhm.
drop in blood pressure, suddenly not able to breathe for some time. So all of these are just adaptations which need to happen. Women are
Understand.
also more likely, for example, on the run course, we are more likely to hyperventilate just because we have not adapted enough to hotter
Got it.
temperatures. We're also at higher risk of dehydration. That being said, Aarti, that being said, we have more fat than men. Yes. So,
Good.
so what that means is endurance is a submax activity, which is very favorable to women, in fact. So just by virtue of having a greater amount of fat and by virtue of having more type 1 muscle fibers or more aerobic or oxidative muscle fibers,
Mhm.
we can go on for slightly longer time, albeit at lower power, you know, lower maybe at a lower percentage of our aerobic threshold, but we can go
Mhm.
on for more time. How does that affect endurance sports? Is we are better runners than men because
Got it.
uh, we use, despite having a lower VO2 max, we use oxygen better than men. Maybe because we run at a steady pace. We don't try and go all out every time.
Got it.
So I hope that answers your question about the differences.
I think, overall, to sum up, the ladies out there, the women out there, I think, with regards, I mean, we are not competing against men here,
No.
but definitely, sir, there are certain points that, as
Yes.
Maitri lightly pointed out, that we need to, kind of look into, especially for the ones who are signing up for the Ironman Goa race, be there at least couple of days prior so that you get used to the whole climatic conditions and train there before you start, racing. But as she rightly said, as women, we have better capacity to run. So let's use that power to kind of get into the endurance sport. But thanks for touching up on something very important, which is the menstrual cycle, right? So I mean, it's a $1 million question. A lot of women out there. How does somebody kind of understands their cycle and how somebody can train around that and make the best use of the different phases of the menstrual cycle and how it can affect or improve their performance as well.
Yeah, and I thank you for this question, Aarti, and I really appreciate the way you framed it because a lot of times I get the question about how does menstrual cycle uh, inhibit performance or stuff like that. I'm really glad you said how can you structure your training around the menstrual cycle, and that's exactly how it should be worded. So yes, so all of us actually understand our menstrual cycle. It's just that, and every research paper you read about it, the first line will be there is not enough research. But I think that as long as you stay intuitive to your body, and as long as you are honest with your coach about how you feel, your training will be aligned. If you, so for example, there are the menstrual cycle goes on from any, it is ideally a 25-day cycle to 28-day cycle, but it can go on from anywhere between 23 to 35 days. Everybody's cycle is different. It is divided into two main phases. There's the follicular phase and the luteal phase. The follicular phase starts with 4 to 5 days of actually bleeding, and then you go into the follicular phase, then you go into ovulation, then you go into the luteal phase, where is the famous, all of us get the PMS, and then we start on to the next menstrual cycle. So our mood, our power output, everything depends on two major hormones, that's estrogen and progesterone. So in the beginning of the phase, when we're bleeding, the levels of both of these hormones is really low. And come to think of it, you're actually shedding out a lot of blood. Like I said, on an average, there's 80 milligrams of blood which is lost, and anything more than that is increasing your chances of iron deficiency with or without anemia, right? So starting with that, those 4 or 5 days when you're actually bleeding and the levels of estrogen, progesterone are both low, there are chances that you may not want to be doing a VO2 max session, or you may not be wanting to do swim drills, or you may not be wanting to do hill repeats or intervals, because there's literally no hormone which is supporting it. Then this is an exercise I like to say this, exercise benefits you every single day. It is just about which type of exercise you want to do. So those are really good days to just maybe do something to increase your blood circulation levels. Get on your bike or the indoor trainer, do a very easy endurance workout, go for a walk, do a flexibility session. Those are just get the blood flow going so that you feel better. Okay. Then we move on to the follicular phase. This is the best phase. These 15 days, women, we're going to rock the world in these 15 days, basically, because our estrogen, which is linked to the production of serotonin, which is our feel good hormone.
True.
So when our estrogen levels increase, we feel great about ourselves. Estrogen is also an energy giving hormone. So this is the time where we can do all of our hard workouts, tough workouts. Our brain is wired to really take in everything that life offers in those 15 days. Okay. So it is a great idea to use those 15 days to do your major training sessions. After that, what happens in ovulation is there is some research to show that women are more susceptible to knee injuries when sometime during the ovulation, when estrogen levels are the highest. So they basically promote bone, they sort of relax the collagen fibers and everything. So we just have to be a little bit careful to not go too crazy. And this happens when we're feeling very good, so we can push ourselves, and then this is something else that can happen. Then coming into the luteal phase, when the estrogen level starts going down and something called as progesterone starts going up. So what is progesterone? It is a pregnancy hormone, progesterone. So it really doesn't want you to spend a lot of energy, and that's exactly what happens in PMS. You're like, you just feel like, yeah. So that's exactly ideally what you should be doing. If you don't, come on, I mean, you and I, we've both probably done races when we are PMSing. We can't help those race dates. I'll tell you what to do about that in a bit. But if you are hypothetically in a training situation, those days could be zone 2, easy, earlier zone 3, any workout is going to be great. A lot of us could have cramps at that time just because of uterine contractions and deficiency of an omega-6 fatty acid. So it is a good idea to consult a sports nutritionist or your OBGYN and take evening primrose oil, increase the amount of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids that you're eating, sleep well. Don't try and, if your coach has given a very high intensity workout and you really do not feel like doing that on that day, there is really no reason to push yourself because your estrogen is low, your progesterone is high. It's a good idea to sort of go with the flow, with regards to your body. If you do have a race, however, in
Mhm.
your PMS, our body temperatures tend to be slightly higher because here we're trying to increase the level of endometrium. So where the lining of our uterus has become thick. We're all getting ready to, conceive or whatever.
Correct.
But and then there's like a half Ironman right in the middle of your PMS. And what do?
Correct.
You sort of use nutrition strategies to increase the blood flow in your body. You start having beetroot juice, which sort of will increase the nitrate, will increase, it'll cause vasodilation. You do a really, really good warm up because you don't want to get into the exercise into the training with a high body temperature but not warmed up. That is a recipe for tears and sprains and all of
Got
that. Yeah, you get a really good sleep. Whenever possible, you drink beverages which are slightly lower temperature because your body is going to be hot at that time, literally.
it.
So you want to do everything you can to sort of reduce the temperature of your body, get into the training, relax, and trust the training and trust your process. So it's a very good idea to be honest with your coach and say, these are my menstrual cycle days. If possible, please structure my training according, if you want to, because there's no use in pushing your body when it's not
Got
ready. You're
it.
not going to gain anything from the workout,
No, no,
you know.
absolutely.
So that's what I think.
Well, thank
So
you so
yeah,
much for that insight. I think a lot of us kind of understand and relate to it, because most of us either are training or racing, and it also kind of gives us a guideline to kind of pick your races also during those
yeah,
phases. If you have the flexibility of choosing your races at your high performance, it kind of gives you that extra edge. So thanks for
yeah,
that insight.
sure.
I think in you talked about nutrition. I think a lot of us kind of want to know what works best for each of us, but though that being very individualistic driven. But what is your take on overall nutrition to improve performance on the endurance sport, especially for the first timers who are going out there to go out to race? And it could be a starting block for a lot of them, saying, oh, it's already overwhelming to do three sports and now I have to
Yeah,
manage
yeah,
the nutrition part
yeah,
also. If you can just touch upon that.
yeah. So this is a very good question. A lot of times that's exactly what happens, Aarti. Everybody's like, oh my God, forget it. I'm not feeling hungry. And then it does catch
True.
up,
True.
at kilometer 52 when you get a cramp or something like that, and you bonk and you just can't push anymore.
True.
So nutrition is actually more important than training. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this because I'm a sports nutritionist. I feel like training makes us feel good, but nutrition is boring. It's boring to eat all of that boring stuff. So which is why we are better off with our adherence to training than our adherence to figuring out what nutrition works for us. And as women, like I said earlier, we are at a higher risk of gastrointestinal distress, like diarrhea, all of muscle, stomach ache. So all of that is happens in women more than it happens in men. That is because we have probably slower transit timings from our stomach to our intestine and all of that. Smaller stomachs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a good idea to accept. Firstly, for women, I think it's a challenge to just accept that they need to eat a lot uh, during something like a triathlon. So please visit a sports nutritionist and sit down with him or her and accept that you have to eat carbohydrates, because that is what keeps your blood sugar stable, even if you're using a slightly higher amount of fat for your workout. But
Mm-hmm.
none of that is going to happen unless your blood sugar is stable. You're just going to bonk if you don't eat.
True.
So come up with a list of high carbohydrate foods which can be eaten before the race, during the race, in the amounts of anywhere between 40 to 60 or maybe even 40 to 90, depending on your comfort zone. And then try them out. In nutrition, there's a very big part called as training your gut. You have to train your large intestine and your small intestine to be able to handle the food, be it gel, be it electrolytes, be it solid food.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say I'll eat it on race day, or I will eat whatever I find on race day. You always have to have your nutrition on point, and Ironman Goa is always so good with their nutrition. And I've done all the race editions, right? All of them. So I think it's one of my favorite races to eat. There's always great food available, especially exactly what you need. The electrolyte drinks are always cold, which is amazing. So yes, and I think menstrual cycle also, where we lose so much blood. If there are women who are feeling fatigued, please visit your gynecologist, please visit your GP, get the blood test done, see your transferrin, ferritin, hemoglobin levels. If your hemoglobin level is lower than 10, you probably do need iron supplements. If your hemoglobin level is fine but your ferritin, transferrin are low, you probably need iron supplements. These are all types of iron deficiencies, with or without anemia. So address those issues. Just don't keep saying that, oh, I've always had a hemoglobin of 9, my mom has it. But your mom is not a triathlete, you are a triathlete, the demand is much more. Please also address your vitamin D3 and B12 levels. Vitamin D3 is absolutely essential, because it helps the absorption of calcium from the intestine. Calcium is required for every muscle contraction. Vitamin B12 is required for the synthesis of red blood cells, erythropoiesis as it is called. Very, very important. What else? Indian women have a lot of self-imposed food restrictions, be it cultural, be it religious, or be it just otherwise. So we have a lot of days where we fast. We have a lot of times where we don't eat certain foods. Our family has not grown up eating certain foods. So please find alternatives and be on top of your nutrition game. You don't want to stand at the start line of half Ironman Goa undernourished. So that's something you don't want to do. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it kind of covers what somebody needs to look into during training, pre-race, during race. I think in a nutshell, I think you've covered everything. Thank you so much for that. Again, another interesting subject is on the hormonal factors, right? How unique is it for women, and how influential can it be for your performance, especially in an endurance sport?
Yes, very very important, because estrogen
Mm-hmm.
is actually bone protective. It has a bone protective effect, which is why, and this effect, it is for you guys also. So y'all also have a very low level of estrogen that is released in your body, and that will give you the bone protection. That is why, Arati, when you see women or when you see girls who don't eat properly,
Mm-hmm.
they lose a lot of weight,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't get their period. Their body basically does not produce enough estrogen. They are more susceptible to fractures. And that earlier it was called as a female athlete triad:
Mm-hmm.
amenorrhea, and then lower bone mineral density, increased susceptibility to fractures. That was the triad. Now it is called as relative energy deficiency syndrome, where you just don't eat enough.
Okay.
And every part of your, not just your menstrual cycle, but your heart rate and your digestion and your thought process, and everything gets affected. And it is seen not only in women but also in men. I think the other thing that estrogen does, like I said, is it improves the secretion of serotonin, which is a precursor for tryptophan. So we are, when we are in the menstrual phase where we produce a lot of estrogen,
Mm-hmm.
we are we are more likely to give endurance performance our best, because mentally we are right there.
Hmm.
The other thing is estrogen lowers. So as we age, there are pro-inflammatory cytokines or pro-inflammatory proteins that are released. Estrogen reduces their release.
Okay.
So yeah, all of these things.
I think it's a good thing that kind of educate ourselves on what especially women on their hormones and how effective they can kind of use it for their endurance performance. So, thanks.
I
I
forgot
think there's
one
a
very important one. Aarti, I forgot a very
please
important one. I'm so sorry.
please
The
go ahead.
most important point is it is heart protective. It
Oh
protects
yeah.
your heart. It's cardioprotective. So women, in from their menarche to their menopause, we are under estrogen's protection. So unless we really wreck our lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we really go against our genetics or whatever, we are going to be safer than men with regards to heart diseases. So I think that's huge.
Okay, that's a good
That
that's a good
was
sign
actually the
for
most
us.
one I
Yeah.
totally forgot.
Makes a lot of sense now. So, I mean, as you said, there's a lot of myth and misconception around the women physiology and endurance sport, and what is your take on overall on that?
Yeah, so absolutely. You know what? When marathon started, there was a full marathon and then there was a half marathon, and for some reason it used to be called as women's marathon and men's marathon. um, so actually women are more suited for longer distance races than men are, just because we have, like I said, we have more oxidative muscle fibers, we have
Mm-hmm.
better running economy, and we have more fat to support the long distance endurance activities. So that is the first myth. The second myth is that if women want to get faster, they need to lose weight. You know,
Yeah.
um, unless your weight is coming in, is sort of hindering your lifestyle or your blood markers with regards to your lipid profile, your HbA1c are, through the sky. Um, your weight can actually help you. It does offer some degree of protection to your internal organs because it is still an impact sport. There
Mm-hmm.
is something also called as the obesity paradox, where if you are overweight and healthy,
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to do everything, all your running, cycling, swimming, weight training, work, but
Mm-hmm.
you happen to be slightly overweight,
Mm.
you are actually healthier than being underweight and unhealthy. So there is,
Got
if you are overweight and healthy, you have more of what is called as a brown adipose tissue BAT, versus if you are overweight and unhealthy, you have white adipose tissue, which is called as WAT.
okay.
So brown adipose tissue is always going to favor fat metabolism. It is going to favor good health, and white adipose tissue is going to favor inflammatory processes. So women, unless let if you're fine, if you feel good in your skin, if you feel healthy in your skin, if your blood markers are fine, don't get stuck in the weight wagon, especially if there's a race coming up. If
Yeah.
there's a race coming up in 3 months, you want to focus on the race, because weight loss also means muscle loss. Muscle loss also means reduced immunity and so many other things that come with that.
True.
The next thing is that if women need to go faster, they should train with men.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that a lot. Why don't you train with the men? Try and catch up. Why? No. That's just going to make me feel bad. If women want to go faster, you need to stay with Aarti is staying and then cycle with her. She's a fantastic cyclist, or run with Tim or something like that.
True.
Then that is going to really help you, because you are racing, you're training with your peer, and then she will help you get to where you are, vis-a-vis, racing with a boy, because he is just different. You are just different.
True.
um what else is there? Sometimes it is a myth, and I think it is, some women say this, that um we are slower than men, or we're slower in general, so why do we need to eat when we race? we
Mm.
we probably will be okay with just 1 date per hour. um the average rate at which glucose is utilized is 60 grams in a minute. It could be less in your case, it could be 30, but that means you need to be eating that much.
True.
Nobody, however slow you are, there is a minimum amount of carbohydrates that you just need to eat.
True.
And weight training is not as important in women as it is in men. So this is also a very big myth. Weight training is more important than anything in women, because after menopause, we don't have the bone protection anymore, and we don't have
True.
the heart protection that estrogen offers. We are equally susceptible to heart attacks or cardiovascular conditions and fractures as men are. And like I said, we already have a higher incidence of knee injuries. We also have smaller muscles. So
Hmm.
if you want to make a smaller muscle group carry you through a half or a full Ironman, you need to toughen it up. And there is nothing like muscle strength. In terms of posture, mood upliftment, increasing the size of individual muscle fibers so they can store more carbohydrates, and so on and so forth. So women, if anything, you have to do more strength training than men. Yeah, I think. Can you think of any other myth? I think this
No, I think you've kind
this
of
is what. Yeah,
covered everything what's there, in all our minds. But thanks for touching upon an interesting, on the muscle mass and fat distribution.
yeah.
I mean, initially you did touch upon it in a small way, but if you can just elaborate, for the viewers to kind of understand how the distribution works I mean, not as a comparison between men and women, but in
Yeah.
general, how does it work for women?
With the muscle and fat
Yep.
distribution? Yeah. So we are blessed with the good stuff that is fat. Uh, um, so that means that, like I said, provided you fuel properly and provided you keep your blood glucose stable, you
Mm-hmm.
will be using just because we have more fat than men. Even the minimum amount of fat that a woman needs to have is a lot more than what a man needs to have. So by virtue of that, in an endurance activity, you are going to be using more fat, which is actually good for your body because you don't want to deplete it of the glucose completely. So we are less susceptible to bulking than men are because we use more fat for fuel.
Fat.
The
Got it.
second thing is we have more type 1 muscle
Okay.
fibers. They are the longer, leaner, endurance specific muscle fibers, and they are not powerful, but they are like, long lasting. So so actually we can actually keep going for, at a sub max level for a very long time. And again, this is no comparison, but this is the difference.
Yeah.
um and what else about, so we are also, because we are smaller
Mm-hmm.
in size than men, and we have greater amount of body fat, it actually favors swimming. We create less drag
Mm-hmm.
and we have more buoyancy. So all the relay teams, all if there are girls in the relay teams, you got to work on your swimming skills. Women are better runners just because we have more oxygen efficiency, because we utilize more fat. So I think that favors us in terms of
Absolutely.
fat and muscle distribution.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much. I know we are there is so much to talk
Yeah.
about on this, and we are just time crunched. But I think we have a question, which is somebody who's just starting into endurance sports, has no idea about swimming, and how can I kind of start? Maybe I'll take that. I think, as triathlete, I think for most of us, especially as first timers, we kind of have a challenge about swimming because you're used to running and cycling, and kind of swimming is something you've learned. Ideally, we would recommend you to learn swimming and kind of use that as your starting point, and then start training yourself for an endurance distance. Then kind of throw in a few open water swim sessions, whether in a lake or a pool. I'm sorry, on a sea, so that you kind of overcome that fear. But if all of that is a big challenge for you, might as well sign up as a team relay. There's obviously a 10% discount for all the women contenders who are participating for the 2024. We have Let's Relay campaign, which is there on our Yoska website, where you can also kind of form teams. And if you're looking to form teams, that's your spot. Just sign up. Reach out to the community out there, where people can just sign up and say, hey, I'm looking for a runner, swimmer, cyclist, or you are interested to be part of a team, or you're looking out for someone. We have that for you readily there on our yoska.in website. So just log in and register, so that you'll be able to find your teammates. I think overall, thank you so much, Maitreyi, for covering such a large subject into a small nutshell for us. There's a lot of takeaways. I think as women into endurance, I think it's a big stepping stone for a lot of women out there, and it's very evident to know that we are built for it. I think that's the biggest myth that a lot of us out there worried whether are we ready for an endurance sport. And thank you so much for very uh, you know uh, making it very simple for us to understand that yes, all of us out there can get into endurance sport and flourish really well. Thank you so much for your time,
Most welcome. Happy to be here. Thank you, Arati.
and looking forward to seeing at the 2024 race as well.
Absolutely.
Chalo, thank you so much.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Have a great
Thank you.
bye.